Blackmagic has given us two amazing cameras with amazing value with the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and 6K. We're here today to uncover what camera is better of the two and which one you should buy. Chris here from Videomaker. In this video, we'll be showing you footage from both cameras side by side and declaring which camera does it better. If you want to fast forward to any of the segments, there are time codes in the description. Also, if you want any of the gear you see in the video, there's also links there for them as well. In this video, we'll be covering what is the same between the two cameras and what's different. We'll then move on to heads-up tests for ISO noise, what their low light performance is using a chart at all ISO levels, real-world low light performance, both cameras at ISO 6400, dual native ISO, both cameras shooting at ISO 800 and ISO 3200 in a real-world situation, dynamic range testing using a DSC Labs Xyla 21 testing chart, dynamic range real-world test, both cameras in all three dynamic range settings, details test looking at the details of each scaled up 300%, then we'll look at how they reproduce skin tones, we'll move on to compare the white balance settings between the two, we'll look at the crop of each camera sensor at different resolutions and how they compare to each other when it comes to field of view, we'll take a look at their rolling shutter, then on to the Moire test, then to the camera shooting simultaneously at the same time-lapse scene, we'll then show you their high frame rate modes shooting up to 120 frames per second, and lastly we'll show you the difference in startup time. We'll then explore the difference in how three different computers handle 6K and 4K Blackmagic RAW playback in Premiere Pro and Resolve 16. We'll then move on to lens selection and cost between the two lens mounts and our recommendation for lenses for each. We'll talk about what you need to be concerned about with media, and we'll end with the difference in battery life. If you like this video and want to see more head-to-head comparisons, comment below what you'd like to see next. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing today, and don't forget to turn the bell on as we put out new content every week. So how are these cameras the same? They're the same in just about every way. Their case and buttons are exactly the same outside of the larger nose for the EF mount. They both capture Blackmagic RAW and ProRes. They have the same menu and they use the same battery and media. So how are they different? The 4K is $1,300. It is a micro four thirds sensor. It has a micro four thirds lens mount. It shoots DCI 4K, UHD 4K, and HD in RAW or ProRes, and it weighs 1.5 pounds. The 6K is $2,500. It has a Super 35 image sensor. It has the Canon EF lens mount, can shoot 6K, 5.7K, 3.7K anamorphic, and 2.K RAW, plus DCI 4K, UHD 4K, and HD in ProRes. It weighs 1.98 pounds and has the longer snout for the EF mount. First, let's look at the ISO noise test to show us what camera has a better low light performance. We shot both cameras under the same lighting and with the same exposure, doing an ISO ramp from ISO 100 up to 25,600. If we look here at the 4K first, it starts showing us noise at ISO 800 and is usable up to ISO 3200. Above this would need noise reduction. Contrasting that with the 6K, we saw exactly the same performance, just at a higher resolution. The larger sensor doesn't offer any gain when it comes to low light performance. Both cameras can shoot above 3200, but would require noise reduction in post-production and would reduce the sharpness of the image during the correction. The next test, we expect to be the same results, but we want to get outside of a controlled studio under video lights. Shooting using only ambient light, the cameras were set here at the same exposure at ISO 6400. You can see that neither look very good at this ISO, and neither look better than the other. Both cameras offer dual native ISO. The lower range starts at ISO 800 and the higher at ISO 3200. Looking at both at ISO 800, there's no difference between them. Then moving to ISO 3200, again, their performance is the same. For both cameras, Blackmagic claims 13 stops of dynamic range. Every bar in the chart represents one stop of light. The far left bar is set at 100 IRE with the camera wide open. Every bar you can see is one stop of dynamic range. Both cameras show 13 stops. However, the Pocket 6K shows nearly 16 stops and this 4K offering 14 stops. Unlike noise performance, dynamic range has been improved with the larger sensor. A real-world test of dynamic range shows the same result. The shadows in the top of each image have more information on the Pocket 6K shot. Here's a look at the three dynamic range settings on each camera. Think of them as no grading needed, some grading needed, and all grading is needed. However, you get more dynamic range in film, less in extended video, and even less in video. Both cameras offer the same settings. In this shot of a sunflower, look at the center of the flower to see the detail. The increase in resolution gives more detail to the Pocket 6K shot. Now let's see those shots with the center scaled up to 300%. Still, the detail is much greater in the Pocket 6K shot. The cameras, if not for the resolution differences, don't show much differences in their picture and color quality. Skin tones look good and pleasing, accurate to how they looked in real life. However, we noticed when shooting that the two cameras have difference in white balance, even when set at the same Kelvin number. The 4K is a bit warmer when set the same color temperature as the 6K. This trends even when using auto white balance, regardless if we are lighting with 3200K or 5600K lights. There isn't a huge difference in the field of view from the crop factor difference between these two cameras. As you can see here, compared to the full frame field of view of the Panasonic Lumix S1H, the Pocket 4K offers a 1.9 times crop factor with the Pocket 6K at 1.56 times. The Pocket 4K wins because you can get high quality lenses at a cheaper price with the Micro Four Thirds lens mount. More on that later. Plus, the smaller sensor allows for the use of a Metabones EF to Micro Four Thirds mount ultra speed booster that would give you more field of view than the Pocket 6K with the same lens. Neither camera has bad rolling shutter. It's there, but it's not likely to be an issue unless you're doing whip pans or shooting fast moving subjects. Neither camera has Moire issues. The 4K shows a bit more Moire, but just a pinch. However, the 6K offers none. Here are both cameras shooting in time-lapse function at 1 frame per second. The cameras were mounted on top of each other. Outside of the dynamic range and white balance being different, they both perform this function in the same way with the same quality. Both cameras offer the same frame rate options. Outside of those gained by offering 6K, 120 frames per second is available in HD and 60 in 4K. Like all cinema cameras, neither camera starts up very fast when compared to a mirrorless camera. However, the Pocket 4K was just a third of a second faster than the Pocket 6K at starting up. Shooting in RAW means you'll need to have enough computer power to play back and edit the footage. We tested these three computers, an iMac fully spec'd out, a 2006 MacBook Pro, and the new Acer Concept D7 with the RTX GPU. Regardless, desktop, laptop, Mac, or PC, all Blackmagic RAW, regardless of resolution, worked best in Resolve. However, Premiere Pro can work with Blackmagic RAW now, and did okay, but 4K was better than 6K because 6K had some frame drop. As one would think, the smaller the data, the easier the playback. With 4K Blackmagic RAW, all systems and programs could play back in real time. This makes 4K a more usable resolution because of the power needed to play back 6K. We priced out a full set of lenses for these cameras to have a complete kit of focal lengths. Adorama has 151 different Micro Four Thirds lenses for sale and 208 different EF lenses. EF lenses are as cheap as $55, but as expensive as $25 grand. The full price range of Micro Four Thirds was $50 to $2,500. But the selection and cost range don't tell the full story. Going with the 35mm equivalent, we selected a kit consisting of a 24mm, 35mm, 50mm, and 85mm prime with two zooms, 16 to 35 and 24 to 70, with all of the primes being f1.2 outside of the 24mm that was f1.4, and the zooms at a constant f2.8. Buying the top lenses in the focal lengths, Micro Four Thirds was 9% cheaper overall. However, because of the selection, EF can be 42% cheaper than that if you go with off-brands and manual focus. Neither camera has autofocus once recording, just a thought. So it seems EF mount wins, right? Not so fast. If you get a $700 Micro Four Thirds to EF Metabones Ultra adapter, you can get a larger focal length than the Pocket 6K gets with a larger sensor, with a smaller sensor of the Pocket 4K. Because of this, the Pocket 4K wins because it gets both Micro Four Thirds and EF lenses to choose from. The battery life on both cameras is bad. Neither lasted an hour. The Pocket 6K did its best at 46.5 minutes, and the Pocket 4K did just 10 minutes more at 56.5 minutes. Either invest in batteries, the battery grip, or an external V-mount battery. Both cameras take the same media, and you can't go wrong. If you aren't capturing at the highest RAW level, SD, CFast 2.0, or external SSD will do just fine. Use CFast 2.0 if you plan on doing RAW at constant quality 0. The cheapest media will be external SSD, with SD coming in second and CFast 2.0 being the most costly, but most robust. Point for point, it's a tie, and we sort of agree with that. From the beginning, we knew these two cameras were very similar. However, it's clear that the 4K is a better value because you get in essence the same camera with a slightly lower resolution with a bit less dynamic range at a lower cost. The thing is, if you need the resolution and dynamic range, you'll pay a bit more for it and the battery will last a little bit less. If you don't need the resolution, get a speed booster, affordable EF lens, a rig, V-mount battery, and a few SD cards, and any other odds and ends, and you'll save a bunch of money. If you like this video, consider subscribing today, and remember to turn on the notifications as we put out new content every week. Think I was wrong in this review? That's cool. Why don't you tell us in the comments? I've been Chris from Videomaker, and until next time, keep doing the hard work that you do. Bye-bye.
Continued learning and practice, as well as taking refreshers on the basics, will help keep your skills sharp. Check out our video courses to stay on top of your game. Find a course by visiting videomaker.com/courses or click the link in the description.